There we go. So here, talk about a leadership lunch. Let's talk about building teams and how we build teams. And as kind of a precursor, as an opening comment, what is the value for us? What's in it for us as leaders? Why do we need to build good teams? Jordan, let's start with you.
Yeah, I was looking for the mute button. Uh, so, so I think that building teams is incredibly valuable for a lot of reasons, but the two that come to mind initially is number one, reducing turnover. The cost associated with turnover is incredible. Retraining people, finding new people, just as business owners or business leaders, the cost associated with it, the disruption to the organization is incredible. So, in building a good team, you keep your costs down, you keep your efficiencies up. But more than that, building a good team is important because you ultimately want to have people that you can rely on, uh,
Hmm.
that work for you, and they can rely on you as a leader. And you become more effective as an organization when you have that trust, when you have that teamwork.
Yeah. I mean, it almost seems like so obvious. Like, well, of course we want to have good teams. We don't want to have dysfunctional teams. It almost seems obvious, but yet it's amazing as I look at organizations and I look at what we do sometimes in organizations. It's like, well, yeah, we talk the good game, but boy, that's kind of counterintuitive or counterproductive, I should say, for really building good teams. Yeah. So a lot of new faces on the leadership lunch today. Love it. Thanks for everybody for joining us. For a couple that jumped in late, it's a discussion here. We asked lots of good questions and we have lots of good comments. So let's maybe hear from one of the new participants in here. Chip, how about you? What do you see as the value? What's the value of us for as leaders need to understand how to build and why it's important to build good teams?
Can you hear me first of all?
Yep, I got you, Chip. And then what organization are you with?
McKinley Paper.
Perfect. One of my new clients. I love it. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to working
yeah.
with you guys.
I think the importance of building a good team is to build relationships and to build trust and to understand and bridge the gap between what's happening on the floor and what's happening within the leadership walls, and to make sure
Mm.
that everybody's on the same page and to make sure that we are getting the best efficiencies as possible.
So interesting comment between what's happening in the leadership walls and happening on the floor. What are some challenges that you see if the team isn't effective or functioning well?
What do I see?
Yeah, what do you see if the team is not functioning well? Or what do you see if the team is functioning well?
I think you look at the metrics a little bit. You can look at the metrics and say, are the metrics speaking for themselves or where are their gaps? And then you have to build the relationships to bridge those gaps so there's one cohesive goal that's being driven towards.
Okay. Yeah. So here's a little bit of a model, and it's a fun model. It's not new. It's been around for a really long time. Tuckman did this. There's actually a fifth stage, but you can see he wrote this originally in 1965. About forming, storming, performing, and I'm sorry, storming, forming, norming, and performing. And some people add, another one, adjoining. But for us, usually as leaders, the teams are, they're perpetual. People come and go, but we're not disbanding the teams at any point in time. So what do you guys see as far as, maybe I'll ask an interesting question just as a case study. So Veronica, where would you say, your team is, in these four stages, just as a case study of one?
I would say we have gotten through the storming stage and we're moving in between norming and performing.
Okay. And what are some of the indicators that lead you to that conclusion?
I'm seeing the team reach out to each other for help when they need assistance with something. Um, they're leaning into one another, which tells me that they're getting much more cohesive. From a metrics standpoint, I mean, metrics are definitely coming up, so that tells me we're moving up toward the performing aspect of it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and it is important as you recognize that when you make changes, regardless whether it's new team members or any other changes, your performance has a tendency to rise initially, then kind of drop, and then starts going back up again. That's kind of the norm for changes, for teams, for anything like that. You're kind of excited at the beginning, and then you lose a little bit of momentum. Things get tough, and then you start figuring out, well, all the things that you didn't know were going to happen and you didn't anticipate. Then you start figuring those things out, and then you kind of figure out, all right, now here's how we deal with those. Yeah. So don't do this often, but we're going to do a little video on here because there's a pretty good clip in here. It's from a movie called Coach Carter. And we're going to look at these 4 stages in here. And then let's kind of talk a little bit about what do you see in your organization in each of these 4 steps, and what do you as a leader need to do to help your organization through these. So we'll watch this. It's a decent little length on here.
Starting today,
Actually, you know what?
play like winners, act like winners,
Stop.
and most
You probably
importantly,
not even hear it yet.
you will be winners. If you listen and learn, you will win basketball games. And gentlemen,
I'm going to restart that because I don't think I shared it with the audio.
It was working with the audio.
Oh, all right. Well, gave myself more credit than I had. All righty. Sorry about that. All right, maybe do this. Didn't click the buttons, but it did it anyway, so that's all right. Thanks, Jordan.
winning in here is the key to winning out there. This contract states that you will maintain a 2.3 grade point average. You will attend all your classes, and you will sit in the front row of those classes.
It's a country.
Okay, Mr. Cruz. Leave the gym right now.
For what?
I'll ask you one last time to leave the gym before I help you leave.
Before you what? Do you even know who I am?
From what I can see, a very confused and scared young man.
Scared of who? Scared of you? I'm supposed to be scared of you? Go on, get off me. Teachers ain't supposed to touch students.
I'm not a teacher. I'm the new basketball coach.
This ain't over!
Let's take this time to say whatever it is we want while the doors are closed. You have the floor. This is about us.
Man, this shit ain't about us. This is all about Coach Carter.
We're the basketball team. All I see is you on TV, getting famous, eating that shit up.
Is that all you see?
That's all I see.
You ain't lying.
Well, let me tell you what I see. I see a system that's designed for you to fail. Now, I know you all like stats, so let me give you some. Richmond High only graduates 50% of its students. And of those that do graduate, only 6% go to college. Which tells me when I walk down these halls and I look in your classrooms, maybe only one student is going to go to college. Well, damn, Coach Carter, if I ain't going to college, where am I gonna go? Now, that's a great question. And the answer for young African-American men in here is this: probably to prison. In this county, 33% of black males between 18 and 24 get arrested. So look at the guy on your left. Now look at the guy on your right. One of you is going to get arrested. Growing up here in Richmond, you're 80% more likely to go to prison than college. Those are the numbers. Mr. Cruz, I'm impressed with what you've done, but you came up short. You owe me 80 suicides and 500 push-ups. Please leave my gym. Thanks, Clyde. Gentlemen, see you tomorrow.
I'll do push-ups for him.
You said we're a team. One person struggles, and we all struggle. One player triumphs, we all triumph, right?
I'll do some. I'll run suicides too.
I'll do some too.
All right. So in the end, then they just start kicking some butt. All right. So let's look at these kind of decisions and stuff, and how we as leaders kind of function in these. And let's look at that first stage, storming, in that forming stage. What are things that are unique to us as the leaders that we need to be mindful of when we're forming those teams? And then let's see here. Who'd like to go first? Or I've all told somebody.
I'll go.
All right, please, Renee.
I would say skill sets, personalities. I think personalities and egos play a big part in the forming stage because, especially if you've had a certain position and a new leader comes in, you're trying to keep that same position. And so if there's some sort of opposition like we saw there, right, where there's a different vision, then you're going to have that conflict.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to own that conflict as a leader and recognize, hey, we're doing this for the right reason, but you got to behave a little bit differently. You don't have this team that's just all raring to go and everything. Yeah.
Mhm.
Other thoughts, ideas. Thank you, Renee.
I'd say that on the decision-making front, that it's very different in the storming time versus the performing time. In the storming time, there probably needs to be a more centralized decision-making process. And at the norming and performing stages, then you can decentralize a lot of that decision-making.
Yeah. Definitely the tendency, I would say look at it, but you might be able to fast track your, through those stages with a little bit of decentralized decision making. But yeah, we'll definitely look at our options and our choices in decision making. Definitely. But that's definitely our tendency, is to pull things in closer and tighter in the beginning. That is our tendency. Whether that's effective or not, that I'll let you decide on each individual case as you're doing that. That's not a one size fits all thing. All right. Other thoughts? What about something we haven't heard yet here? How about Jorge? How about you? What are your thoughts on this? Why do you lead a little bit differently in relation to these skills in these different phases?
Good question. I think, as you say, just you have to provide that you can be trusted as a leader, to be open to hear, because sometimes we have leader like I'm the leader and I will do, or you guys will do whatever I want, but to don't hear the rest of the team. So you have to start to build the trust with the team.
Yeah, and what I appreciate about your insight on that, Jorge, is that it's not that they have to, do things to earn your trust. It's you as the leader have a responsibility to garner trust and earn trust in people as well.
Yeah, you have to. I think that you have to gain it. It's not something that is not coming with the position. The position is there, but you have to work to get it. It's not free at the end.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's not free. You have to work, you have to earn it. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more on trust here in the discussion. I got a little visual that I like sharing when it comes to trust. All right. How about Laura Hernandez? What are some of your thoughts? What are you seeing this? If you're able to come on, you're muted if you're still trying to speak, Laura.
Hello, everybody.
There you go. Now we got you.
So during the storming phase, it's more of an introductory to each other. You're learning different personalities, your different ways people work. So this is the time where you learn who might say your direct reports. Again, how their personalities work, and you need to learn every sorry, kind of coming apart a little bit, sorry.
It's okay.
But you have to learn the different ways, the personalities of every person, and during this introductory period, they get to know you, and again, know that you are there for the team, and you do well for the team, and move on to the second stage.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes we look at that storming stage and think that, you know, it's a bad thing. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. It's uncomfortable. We're certainly, I wouldn't say no one loves staying in that stage. But I think we as leaders need to appreciate the value of that storming stage, because this is where we start to identify what's really going on. What are the things we really need to do for long-term success versus sometimes just, you know, masking things and, you know, pretending that everything's okay and not going to hard places. This gives us a chance to allow some of these stripes and things to go on. But in the end, I like Laura's idea on there is that, you know, this gives us a chance to figure out, well, what doesn't work. And I think that there's a tremendous amount of value in figuring out, well, what's not working, because then that tells you where to go differently. And if we're not open to that and we don't work our way through that, and I think that it's important as a leader that we recognize we got to give a little bit of grace during that period, both for ourselves, for our team members, and for our organization, that yeah, there are going to be some growing pains and they're going to be all right. We're going to get through them and we're going to be better on the other end, and have a commitment to not just being stuck in that conflict and that strife. But, you know, I think that us as leaders, we definitely have to figure out, well, what do we need to do a little bit differently with those? So in that forming stage, and this is really true for any type of a group, when any group is forming, there's these three questions that people ask of themselves. The first question people ask is, do I want to be part of this group? And as a leader, if we don't pay a lot of credence to that, what's going through people's minds in this new team, or you as a new leader coming in, do I want to be on this team? Do I want to continue to do this? There's a tremendous amount of insight lost. And we have to recognize that everybody's going through this. Mm-hmm. Robert, what have you seen? I know you always have some great music analogies and some great art analogies. Share us one of your cool wisdoms on this as people are trying to decide, do I even want to be part of this team? And how do you relate that into the arts as you do so eloquently?
Well, thanks, Ken. First of all, I'm in Lisbon. And I'm 5 hours ahead of you, and my background and the noise behind me might betray me. But so, do I want to be part of this group? As I was listening to you, first of all, can you hear me okay, Ken?
Gotcha. And I see you enjoying your drink there, Robert, and I'm jealous. It looked like an awesome place there.
I'm in a gritty part of Lisbon.
Nice.
So as I read the word, do I want to be part of this group? My reaction was as if 100% of the decision is on my terms and none of the decision is on the part of others. And of course, most of us, it is a two-way street, right? We both have to agree that I belong in this ensemble. So to bring it into, you know, performing arts, metaphor, symphony, you know, if I imagine myself, you know, in the choir, soprano, alto, tenor, bass, does this group, there's a phrase about being the cheapest house on the block. if you're the cheapest house in the block, that might be a good thing. If you're the smartest person in the room, might be a bad thing. So imagine your team is part of this symphony choir, and you might have imposter syndrome, like, oh my God, these people are incredibly talented. But then going back to the question on the screen, do I want to be part of this group? If it's an elite ensemble, yes, like absolutely join that group because you have a lot to learn. There's eliteness and pedigree and that sort of thing. And again, do I want to be part of this group? If they feel junior varsity, freshman, and you're more mature, more advanced, then maybe you might decline to say, I'm not going to sit this one out to wait for where my skills are more compatible and at the same level of maturity as the others. So I'm trying to bridge both interpreting literally what I see on the screen. Do I want to be part of this group? Is it one way or a two-way decision? And then the performing arts analogy. What is your role model? Is the negative role model a bunch of cats chasing a laser pointer? I don't want to be part of that ensemble. Herding cats. We use that phrase a lot. We're just herding cats, unsynchronized. But the synchronization skill of the team is what dictates the speed of it. I want to be part of a synchronized team. I want to be part of a symphony.
Yeah. And I think there's a good point in there is that, it's not just about the tasks that you're doing, but it's about the people around you. And to what extent do you feel that they are welcoming? Unfortunately, my kind of first experience into the military was one where they intentionally made you feel less welcome. And, there's reasons behind it, but it was kind of like, yeah, why don't I want to be part of this? So I think you're right. The group and their acceptance of you and their welcoming of you is part of that as well. So I think that becomes important as you as a leader. What are you doing to welcome people onto the team, to make them feel welcome, to make them feel valued? And, you have a lot of control over that as a leader and a lot of control over how somebody responds to that. And
there's a very,
go ahead, Robert.
There's a very fun new version of IQ and EQ. It's called HQ, hospitality quotient versus hostility quotient. And I learned this term from Danny Mayer, who's the restaurateur at Shake Shack, Gramercy Tavern in the US. So Danny Mayer, who's got some YouTube videos, taught some of his audience this concept of HQ, hospitality quotient. We've all heard of IQ and EQ and AQ. AQ is adaptability quotient. Some change managers talk about AQ, but when you talk about feeling welcome, Ken, I'd love to evangelize this concept of HQ. Are we, for any group, are we hospitable or are we hostile?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So think about that as you got new team members coming in, that their first decision they're making isn't, their first one is, do I want to be part of this team? Then people in a group kind of figure out or wonder, well, what's the leadership structure? And in the business world, that's usually a little bit more clear. If you're forming teams that don't have a defined leadership structure, boy, that those individuals will spend a lot of time trying to sort that out first. So don't minimize the value of that. And then finally, then people start wondering, well, how do I get the work done? So if we skip the first two steps or don't give enough consideration for those first two steps, and we just try to get straight to the work, we're a little bit slower and it's a little bit harder and it's a little bit more painful in this process. So what I encourage you to think about as a leader is recognizing that we have to make sure that people feel welcome before we start worrying about how much work we're going to get out of them. So don't consider that, as well as if you're responsible for, integration or new hire training or anything like that, or, in anything that you hire with somebody, please pay attention to the idea of making them feel welcome first before you're worried about what work you're going to get out of them. And that goes back to, the original why Jordan talked about. That's part of that turnover. It takes a little bit of time for people to go through that process. So a couple discussions, we'll hit it one at a time. So let's talk about that. So that first question there. How do you as a leader help people want to be part of that group? Let's talk about that. Who's got some good ideas? Mandy, let's start with you. How do you do it over there at Wilson and with your team?
Well, if I'm thinking from like we have a new logistics manager starting Monday, we've got a 30-day plan. And the first week is mostly going to be meet and greets, building those relationships and who he'll be working with closely. And then as we go throughout the month, he's going to get more ingrained in the Wilson culture and what's expected of him in the first 30, 60, and 90 days and clear up to 6 months.
Okay. So what I love about that is I didn't hear anything about moving stuff yet.
Mm-mm. No, that's after 3 months. The first 3 months, you're kind of, getting your legs and figuring out what your target points are. But then within the first 6 months, they are identifying some sort of improvement project that they can help champion.
Yeah, I like that. Identifying it. No expectation they're going to solve it in the first 90 days or 30 days. All right. Good. Other ideas. Chris, how about you? What are some thoughts you have? How do you help people want to be part of the group or part of the team? You able to speak, Chris? I know we had a little bit of technical troubles earlier. All right. No problem. Joe, I'm sure if you're able to talk or just listen there, Joe, but you are a master at making people feel welcome. I saw him running around earlier, so he may just be listening, which tends to happen. All righty. No problem, Chip. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Jordan, what about you? What are some thoughts you have on bringing people in and making them feel like making sure that they want to be part of the team?
Well, I think it's a balance between making people feel welcome. So one of the things that we do is we make sure that when they come in, everything's prepared for them. They have a welcome box. They have their office set up so that we put in the effort ahead of time to make them feel valued and welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is making them feel respected, which is taking their feedback. With new employees, I like to sit down with them after the first week and just hear from them what surprised them. What do they see as an outsider's perspective, being new to the organization, that caught them by surprise, either in a good way or a bad way, where we've got room for improvement. So I think respecting their opinion, respecting their value, showing them that they're valued is important.
Yeah. No, I agree. It may have been a small thing, but I always made sure, that their first day in there, I always took them to lunch the first day. That was one of the things that I always tried to make sure that I could do, as well as a lot of those other things, like you said, getting set up and everything else. Nothing says we're happy that you're here to have all that stuff ready to go for them. Yeah. So that clarifying that leadership of the team, it's not necessarily just an org structure, but really thinking about, who are the influences and how are those things happening? What are some thoughts you have as far as how are we clarifying some of those roles? Renee, what are some of your thoughts?
We're answering these 3 questions.
You're on number 2 now.
Oh, okay.
How do we as leaders clarify kind of that leadership of the team?
Well, I would say being very straightforward with the vision, with the leader's vision, the expectations of the team, empowering the team members, providing psychological safety, just kind of laying down kind of the housekeeping rules as to how the team is going to run.
Okay. So Janet, I'm going to call on you. I know that at Fort Bend ISD, you have kind of an interesting role in supplier development, suppliers, things like that. And you run a lot of teams where they're kind of ad hoc and things like that. what are some of your thoughts in there, and Janet, and how are you clarifying some of those positions, especially when they're not necessarily clearly defined or organic or consistent? You there with us, Janet? Oh, there you go.
Yes, I'm here. One of the things I look at overall, because it's such a diverse group that we deal with, is helping everyone to feel that sense of belonging,
Mm-hmm.
encouraging them and bringing them in, letting them know that there's an opportunity for everyone, and everyone gets that same chance. It's not based on if you have this, if you have that. It's based on that window of opportunity. And when they walk in the door, we ensure that they have all of the tools that they need to succeed.
Yeah. So and I think that part of that might be kind of the communication structure. Who do we talk to with what? Who do we go to for what challenge? Where do we go for this?
Yes,
Where do we go for that? Trying to help people have a code for that versus discovery learning and having to figure it out on their own.
right.
That goes a long ways. If people just don't even know, well, who do I ask about this? Or where do I go for this question? Or when should I call you for this? Or when am I expected to figure it out on my own? I mean, we think a lot about those, but we don't want to just think about the organization structure. And we're going to kind of skip the third question for right now because that's kind of the whole point on all this. So if we think about building effective teams, here's kind of a structure or a thought here is effective teams have clarity in these areas. And I mean, a lot of these terms have come up already. Clarity in our goals, roles, the processes, and the relationships. So how do we as leaders clarify our goals? Robert, what are your thoughts on that one?
So I could approach this question glass half full or glass half empty. And I think because the glass half empty is more awkward and taboo, I'll lean that direction. So when I think of goals, if I approach this glass half empty, it's what are the biggest problems? What are the biggest problems we're trying to solve? And are these problems based in the customer experience, the stakeholder experience, of something external, or is it something internal? As in the team, our culture. How do we suck? So that's where my mind gravitates, is either internal or external. Glass half full, glass half empty. I could gravitate toward are we trying to raise like a luxury thing, like somewhere near the top of Maslow's hierarchy, or are we more toward the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy? As it's not luxury, it's a form of poverty. Maybe not literal poverty, but something is really dysfunctional. It's really a problem. And so, when you think of goals, we might be on a scale of 1 to 10. If I just try to generalize it and do a scale of 1 to 10, a goal tries to improve something. So is something at a 0 or a 1, and we're just trying to raise it to a 4 or 5, or are we trying to take something that's currently a 4 or 5 and raise it to an 8 or a 9? So there's a number of different ways I could approach it: glass half full, glass half empty, internal, external, luxury, or poverty.
Yeah, I think that, we don't necessarily put enough emphasis, but if we have clear expectations and clear vision of what we're supposed to be doing and who's supposed to be doing what, then teams are going to be more effective. If nobody knows who's supposed to do it, or somebody thinks somebody else is going to do it and nobody's doing it, then our organization is going to flounder. And that happens all the time. It's kind of that wait and hope. I think that person's doing it. Isn't so-and-so supposed to do that? But clearly understanding that, I know, Veronica, you and your organization, you guys have some pretty clear metrics and pretty clear goals and things like that. How do you use that towards the growth and the effectiveness of your team?
They know that that they are held accountable to these goals, but inspect what you expect. I mean, one of the things that you've really hammered into me is checking in and giving that feedback regularly so that we're moving toward that goal.
Yeah. It's kind of like the old saying, if we don't know where we're going, we're going to end up someplace else. You know, if we need to make sure that we got important functions in there and that people know what the expectations are, because everything else in their performance is going to be related back to that. If we don't start with that base, that foundation, that is that concrete foundation for effective teams, is making sure everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. Donama, welcome. Glad that you're making it here. Let's talk a little bit about like roles and responsibilities and stuff and roles in an organization. And, you know, universities are a little bit interesting because a lot of times, you know, people get to pick what they want to do versus, you know, what has to get done. What are some thoughts on how we lead better and creating more clear roles for people?
Yeah, so that's a tough question, but usually we're hired in to do certain things, right? And if the younger hire is mentored a little bit effectively, they can kind of stay in that lane, establish those and demonstrate accomplishment. And then as they grow professionally, reaching out into some other areas and so forth. In academia, there's usually an annual review or even more frequent and is necessary. And exactly what you was articulated in the recent comments here, checking in, making sure that you're accountable for the things you said you were going to do. And I've seen the evaluation process change over the years, but basically it is what you say you're going to do, and then the expectations for your position, if it's a faculty member or staff member, and then did you do them and how well did you do them? And so it's kind of fits into this process. And interestingly, Ken, I just got off of a Zoom meeting with an organization that I'm an officer for, and we're talking strategic plan, and so this is really timely.
Yeah, exactly. What who's doing what role and something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and nonprofits and organizations like that can definitely be a little nebulous sometimes because people pick and choose what they want to do versus what needs to be done. And as a leader, you got to be mindful of that yeah, you want to try to align what people need to do with what they want to do, but life doesn't work out that pretty. Oftentimes they need to do the things that aren't their first choice. Yeah. So processes, let's talk a little bit about processes. You know, I'm a big believer in processes and having good processes and stuff, and having valuable processes and refining those processes and not getting stuck in those. Jorge, how about you? What are some of the thoughts in how do you develop and utilize good processes for team effectiveness?
Okay, for that part of the process, I think that we're still under. Well, I'm making changes because in the last year I took a new position in the company. So based on the experience that I have on how the people is working, and also on my own perspective, I'm trying to define new procedures, to have a new attitude with the people, to be more open. I think this part of the experience that we are gaining with the time. And so I'm building a new onboarding process for them to define, to make clear how we work as an organization and what we are expecting. Because with the time I was seeing like, okay, we thought that we were clear, but we are not. So this is something that we are working. We are making changes to change the onboarding, but to be clear. So you were mentioning it, and as Don mentioned, that this is a good time because something that I'm working with the new people to improve the process and how to be more effective and they increase efficiency.
Yeah. And for background, Jorge works for a manufacturing organization. So, you know, those organizations, you know, tend to think processes tend to come a little bit more naturally, but even in an organization, you know, where there's still things that need to get done. How's it supposed to get done? What order is it? What are the checkpoints in there? What are the stop gaps? What are the
Yeah.
important points?
Actually, I'm in the manufacturing industry. I'm here with Chip. He started with us to work with us in a few times. I'm working also with Lara Hernandez. So we're a manufacturing, but I'm in the IT area. So
gotcha.
we have to work with the manufacturing. We have to work with the people in the offices, and how to measure our progress. So right now it's a work in progress how to attend because it's kind of mixed. Even though we are a manufacturing industry, we have people in the offices, we have people on the floor, we have people working remotely. So it's a different and then the time for the at least the people that work with me in the IT sometimes kind of challenge how to address it, all of them, how to explain them some of the criteria to follow in the process.
Yeah.
Because some of the people when they started to work with us, some people doesn't have experience in the manufacturing. So it's another consideration that we have to have on place to in the process, like, okay, what you have to do in all that is related in the work. So we have to be like a mentor or coaching them in part of the process in the onboarding.
Yeah. And I think one of the aspects that's kind of interesting and unique about IT is that, a lot of people want the IT to follow their processes, but it doesn't always work cleanly like that. Sometimes it's easier to follow the IT process and just adjust what you're doing versus having like a custom solution, because generally when it comes to IT, custom solutions just lead to disaster.
Yes. It's funny, but yes, it is. That's the truth.
He's like, yeah, more people should just do it the way IT wants to be done.
Yep. So,
and then, we had a lot of conversations so far thinking about trust and relationships and communications and stuff. We got to build those relationships. So I'll hit a couple of things in here that we've talked about here. A lot in the discussion, we've talked about decisions. And it's really interesting as you look at an organization, like what decisions are made where and how are we making them? And this is kind of a continuum of the leader makes the decision on one hand, or the decision is completely delegated on the other hand. Or where it fits in the middle in there. And Jordan was talking about this a little bit earlier. He's like, hey, in the beginning, he might be a little closer to that zero where the leader makes the decisions. But my view is that the more you can push the decision to where the information is, the better you're going to be. And that's sometimes hard for us as a leader, because that means we have to let go of control and we're still responsible for the results, and they may not do it exactly the way we want to. So you got to kind of mind that balance in there. But ultimately, the further down you can push the decisions in the long run, I believe the better off you are. But that's my opinion. We talked a little bit about accountability. Accountability is part of that process. A few of you in here have seen this chart before, and this accountability ladder, and like, where are you at as a leader and where are people at in their decisions? High performing teams, they're above those lines. They're in accountable behaviors. Lower performing teams get stuck down there in the bottom. Somebody else was supposed to do that. Oh, that's this person's. Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. You got to be mindful of those below the line behaviors and try to elevate people to try to get above the line. Anybody had any kind of experience in this where they've had to take people and try to get them from below the line answers to above the line answers?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because how do you sort of activate or communicate, convey to someone, this is your responsibility, but you're not getting it done, so to speak. We just need you to move it forward.
Yeah. So Don, one of my techniques that I encourage people to do is, when they're using all of these bottom ones, I can't do this. What about this? Somebody else is supposed to do it. I'll ask them the question very straightforward. Says, okay, well, where's your responsibility in all of this? So I never minimize the other points because they may all be valid and true, but it's like, I don't want to worry about it. I don't want to focus on those. So what's your responsibility in all this? Where do you lie in this? Or what can you influence? And just try to put the focus back on them and not allow them the opportunity to shift that focus elsewhere. Because some people are pretty good at that technique.
I think if you empower them and you give them the confidence that they need to move forward, to think differently as a leader, again, once you empower them, then they can move up the ladder and say, oh yes, I can do this by myself. Thank you for empowering me, or give them the tools that they need. Then they will definitely move up the ladder. But it's our responsibility, not a total responsibility, but we can help them and guide them that way so they can move up the ladder and they can get more positive.
Yeah. And if we think of ourselves as a leader and we can control ourselves as a leader, how we choose to respond when we're presented these, that can have a huge impact on it. If they come to us and they say they can't do it and we go and solve it for them and we go do it for them, what are we teaching them? We're teaching them that okay, I can bring any problem and I don't have to worry about it. It's now, my hands are clean on it and my boss now has it. And be mindful if that's what you want to teach people. Yeah. And one of the other ideas in here, and I think it goes very close to what you're saying, Laura, and I appreciate the idea, is that we have to put the tools and the authority as close to the responsibility as we can. We're going to hold people accountable. We have to give them the authority to get things done. And sometimes when the authority and the accountability are detached, we have big problems. So if we're going to hold somebody to account for something, you have to have that responsibility in there. And Rob's comment there in the chat was kind of conveyed a little bit about that, but that's, mine's on the leader side giving it. Rob's is on the receiving end. Sometimes they don't want it, but too bad. That's their role. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what you need them to do. So go back to our trust discussion here. And I like this kind of diagram here on the trust, because what happens if one of these legs breaks? Yeah. And it's funny, right around the time my son had one of these little chairs like this, and I was actually using it, borrowed it, and one of the legs broke. And of course, it fell down, and it immediately brought this back to my head. It's like, okay, we gain trust through achieving results, acting with integrity, and demonstrating concern. That's how we earn trust. That's how we garner more trust. That's how we build trust in our team members. You have to do all three of these. And even if they seem like they're in conflict with each other, they're not. How we get results? Yeah, we got to get results. But if we get results through shady ways or creative number crunching, then, that's not going to garner trust. Yeah. So I like Rob's as well. 4 ingredients: trustworthiness, competence, honesty, dependability, benevolence.
He's on a roll today.
He is. He is always on a roll.
Yeah.
Robert's always on a roll.
True.
I need to get in a room with Robert sometime. I've never yet to meet him in person, but I need to. So we got to think through that trust bit, and sometimes, if we're not earning that trust and not developing that trust, what do we need to do differently in there? So Rob, I'll let you kind of come in here, share with us a little bit of your ideas on building trust and on garnering trust.
So I'm flattered, and yes, I'm happy to travel when I get back to the U.S., which is in early May. So about 15 years ago was when I stumbled upon this study on trust It was from Northwestern University, which, by the way, those of you in the US, there's a basketball tournament going on right now. At my undergrad institution, the Fighting Illini is in the Final Four, but ironically, I'm wearing a Northwestern. I'm wearing a Northwestern t-shirt, Northwestern basketball t-shirt today. But trustworthiness. So those 4 ingredients, we've been doing like this agile hybrid thing, this software centricity thing for a couple decades. But the awkward reality and the dirty little secret is what makes teamwork difficult. It's not code, not software, it's people, and it's our trustworthiness. And maybe it's the junior people, but when the junior people have trustworthiness problems, they don't last, they get fired. The problem is the persistence when the senior ranking people, when the climbers, the senior ranking people have trustworthiness problems because they're not competent, they're dishonest, they're not dependable, they're not benevolent, they're malevolent, right? So that's where the major awkwardness resides, I think, is when senior ranking employees are not trustworthy. So that's the methodology we need. We need to adopt habits that make untrustworthiness uncomfortable. We need habits that make untrustworthiness uncomfortable. We have to stop leaving trustworthiness to chance. And just using the word trustworthiness changes the tone of the conversation, right? Because then the onus is on me to demonstrate to you that I am trustworthy, right? It's the onus is on me to convey I'm trustworthy. And everyone should talk that way instead of, I don't know, the other, just the word trust. There's more tolerance there. Anyway, thanks for letting me ramble a bit.
Yeah, no, I love it. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Yeah, and we talked about communication, kind of one of these last little bits on here. Talked a lot about communication in our process. Just remember that it is a system, and kind of like Coach Carter was talking about in the video, the system is designed for us to fail. Everything has to go right. It's like the Swiss cheese model. All the holes got to line up in the Swiss cheese for you to get right through it. So you have to remember that when we're communicating, everything is against us. And we have to fight everything that's against us to make sure that our communication is effective. It doesn't happen by default. The default is not effective communication. The default is miscommunication. So going through all of the things that the world has against us through no fault of its own, through no malice, just the way it is. Making sure that the message sent equaled the message received. And that's the definition of effective communications. And as I always encourage people to do, the only way to know if the message sent was what the message received was what you meant, you got to confirm it with them. It's not a hard process. We just don't do it enough. But, it's about asking that question. Okay, hey, in your own words, tell me what you heard. And getting that understanding and saying, hey, all right, I got a couple of steps. Make sure you write this down. Setting up for success for that. Love it when I hear leaders, give a bunch of instructions and then, say something like that. Hey, in your own words, tell me what it is that you're going to do. And when you see that happening, you're like, oh, it just like warms my heart. Like, oh, that's awesome. So just think through all that process as we're communicating. So as we're kind of closing out here with the last a few minutes here, just think about your teams. Here's a couple of ideas and some thoughts, some characteristics that you can typically see in those teams. That alignment to the mission and the purpose. Are we here for the same reason? Do we understand what that is? Are we aligned in that? Is it, involvement, both formally and informally in the team members? Do they embrace new things and ideas, or do they shy away from them? Are we pushing the decisions to where the information is and pushing it to the lowest level possible, or acceptable, I guess, appropriate? Maybe that's the right word to use. The lowest level appropriate. And then, are we trustworthy? We'll use Rob's verbiage for us here. Are we being trustworthy? And open and honest, but not mean. Being clear and concise and honest does not mean you get to be mean. We can be brutally honest, but we can't be brutal with our honesty. That's mean and unnecessary. Have we clarified the roles and the expectations and who's doing what? And when appropriate, team assessments are a phenomenal tool. Got a couple here from McKinley, one of my new partners, and we're looking at how are we doing some of these type of assessments for people to understand what's going on. Get some data. These things are just pure data. They're great. A few of you on here have gone through Energize to Lead. It's an aspect. It's understanding that, hey, we have different energies as our teams, and each energy is a little bit different. And understanding not only the individuals, but each team has its own energies. So some of these assessments out here really help us understand. I know Renee did one with two of her team members whose energies were absolutely clashing with one another. And I hope they had a better relationship after that, and it helped them a little bit. But understanding where your energies are, where your preferences are, and how to manage those energies. And it's not that we have to have the same energies. Jordan, who was on here earlier, he and I, our energies are identical, and we can have quick, fast communications because of that. But I also, we can have great conversations with people whose energies are vastly different than ours as well. So just kind of understanding some of those things. And some takeaways for you guys as you're thinking about how you build this effectiveness. If you've written a leadership philosophy, great opportunities to share those regularly, who you are as a leader, building that organization out so that people feel supported, having that structure where people are empowered, understanding what relationships are out there, and obviously watching out for what's happening to the outside of us, and then facilitating good discussions, whether they're just conversations. How are we doing? Those are all valuable actions for you guys as a team. Here's the one that I like to use a lot of times for after meetings or other things. This is a method that you can use for evaluations. Hey, how did we do today? What was something that we liked about today? What energized you? What created some anxiety? Is there anywhere we need to redirect? And what are some next steps we need to stay on track? So this is a model. There's plenty of them out there, but if this one works for you, I didn't create it. It comes from a book called Conversational Intelligence. So it's a good opportunity. All right. So we got about a minute left. If anybody has any kind of thoughts, questions, anything else, ideas on good teams, happy to discuss it. All right. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day. Look forward to seeing you. Next month will be a little bit interesting. It's May. I'm at OTC and in Houston in May. So we'll definitely get it done again in May. It'll be that first Wednesday in May. And looking forward to seeing you guys then.
Good stuff, Schmitty. Thank you.
All right, Joe. I'll see you in a couple. See you next week, Joe.
Thank you.
See you next week, my friend. Be well.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Renee.